Welcome to the Money and Meaning podcast, where we help people design retirement plans that are more than just about the numbers. Creating a plan that will allow you to worry less and live more. I'm Mark Rolette, President and Founder of South Shore Retirement Services, and for many years we have been helping people in the local community design plans where they are able to do the things that they want to do and not have to worry always about the numbers. It's really easy to get to a place of retirement and think, I'm just going to withdraw my money and figure it out as I go. But that can create a huge amount of stress for many people, and it can be detrimental to the actual outcome of your retirement. So this podcast, we're going to break down ways and ideas and solutions around things that you really should be thinking about in order to be able to maintain your lifestyle in retirement, build in inflation, worry less about things like market downturns, be able to have money sitting on the side for unusual expenses that you didn't expect or didn't want, and still be able to do all of the things that you actually wanted to do without the worry about running out of money. The first thing I want to talk about is the sequence of return risk. Many people don't even know what that is, but a sequence of returns is how you actually make your returns. And when you're accumulating money, it's not as important because you could make 10%, lose 5%, make 15%, and ultimately you will average the same rate of return as making 5, making 5, making 5. The issue starts to happen when people start to take money out of their accounts, and the sequence of returns really matters. I know it sounds technical, but essentially you don't ever want to take money out of an account that has gone down. You don't want to take losses out in addition to the money that you're going to need, because it can have a huge impact on the dollar figures that are left. In the industry, they talk about average rates of return, but at South Shore Retirement, we talk about actual rates of return. Actually, how much money you started with, how much money you took out, and how much money you have left. So the sequence, or how you make returns, matters. It matters so critically in retirement, in distribution, and so many people are unaware of it that if you could imagine, if you retired last year and immediately when you retired, the stock market went down, your entire account maybe lost 20%, but your lifestyle didn't change, so you still needed the same dollar amounts out of the account. The amount of strain and pressure that puts on your portfolio to get back on track is something that most people in retirement don't want to have to deal with. Our philosophy at South Shore is you make more by losing less instead of just trying to find the next big thing to invest in. So having a portfolio designed to be able to withstand the ups and downs of the market while you're actually having your life and spending the money on the things that you want to spend money on is the first step in making sure that you're ready to go into retirement and ready to use your money as a distribution. So we talked about sequence of returns. And my experience has been that the industry talks about problems but doesn't necessarily provide solutions. People want to know, well, how do I fix this? How do I make my portfolio able to withstand the ups and downs of the markets? Let me explain how we would do it at South Shore. So in order to still maintain a good return on your portfolio, because I've never met anyone who doesn't want to make money in retirement, but to be able to withstand the ups and downs of the market and still be able to take money out of these accounts, we would bucket money out. And what do I mean by bucketing money? The biggest thing that we look at when we're investing people's money is when. When are you going to need to use the money? And then how much money are you going to need to use, right? So if you think about it, if you work for 30 years, you go into retirement on Friday, on Monday, you don't need 100% of your money on Monday. Because if you do, I'm really sorry, you just didn't save enough money. If you need that money to supplement the rest of your life, you need some of it, right? You need some of it now, you need some of it in 5 years, you need some of it in 10 years, and so on and so forth. So by bucketing your money out, you have one portion of your money in a bucket that is more conservative, not trying to get big returns, like fixed interest, CDs, money market, treasuries, things that are boring, but they will continue to give you that small return. Then you have some portion of your money that maybe you don't need to use for 5 or 6 or 7 years. It doesn't mean it's tied up. It just means it can work a little bit harder and it's trying to get a slightly better return than the fixed interest bucket. Then you'll have a portion of your money that is equities that would be directly in the stock market, have all the ups of the market and all the downs of the market. And if the market goes down, where's the last place you would take your money from? From that bucket. But if you look at your portfolio, you look at your retirement plan and say, I don't need to use that money for 15 or 20 years based on my spending habits, well, you can invest that money like you're 15 or 20 years younger than you actually are, allowing your portfolio to withstand the ups and downs of the market because you don't have to take money out of it, and ultimately try to get a much better overall return for your nest egg. So bucketing your money out doesn't mean that you're getting more conservative with all of your money. Bucketing your money out means you're getting more intentional with how you're actually going to spend through that money over the rest of your retired life. So we talked about sequence of returns. We talked about bucketing your money. Now let's talk about spending your money. Everyone has a game plan in place for, I think I'm going to need X amount of money from my investments to supplement, whether it be Social Security or a pension or both. I think you have to have some sort of flexibility in your spending patterns, because if the market goes in the wrong direction, maybe you start to feel nervous about spending into that bucket. In fact, we have a white paper on this topic, and you can click on the link in this podcast to be able to download that white paper. And essentially what it does is it shows two different scenarios. Somebody who retires in 2007, right before the financial crisis, and somebody who retires in 2009, right after the crisis and when the rebound started in the market. They both had the same amount of money. They both had the same spending habits. They both had completely different outcomes, because if you're spending the same amount of money out of an account that you have not intentionally invested for distribution, you're taking this stagnant amount of money out every single year. Some years you'll be taking it out when the market's up. Some years you'll be taking it out when the market's down. And it can create a completely different mathematical outcome to your portfolios. One of the things that I've noticed over the last 25 years or so of helping people with this is that people who save money will go without. And that's terrible. And what do I mean is, if you've got $1 million and you need $50,000 a year and you're like, my portfolio will make 5%, I'll take 5%, and it continues to do that. If it doesn't make 5%, what I've seen is that people won't take necessarily the money out of the accounts and, put their portfolio in some sort of, additional pressure. They just won't do the things. They won't spend the money, which is awful, right? You work 20, 30, 40 years building up your nest egg with the idea that that's going to be the thing that creates your paycheck in retirement. If it goes in the wrong direction, it's almost like you're punishing yourself by not doing the stuff that you want to do. So when we talked about bucketing, that allows you the ability to withstand and ride out the ups and downs of the market without having to not go on that trip, not spend that winter in Florida, and not do the things that the money is there for in the first place. We've all heard that old saying, life is short, do it now, don't put it off till tomorrow. But I can tell you from experience, life can be really long as well, not in a negative way, but people live a long time. It's not a case of, going into retirement and 7 years later, everyone's going to your funeral. People live a long time in retirement. So longevity risk is a risk, right? Living longer than you expected and running out of money. In fact, statistics show that 61% of Americans are more afraid of running out of money than dying, which when I read it the first time, I was like, that's weird, but it isn't, right? If you think about it, no one wants to run out of money and then still live for 10 more years. So being aware that you're going to need potentially more money to buy the things that you're going to buy in retirement over time, right? They're going to get more expensive. And knowing that if one person were to pass away 10 years beyond what they thought they were going to pass away at, you want to make sure that you have a cushion in place. I'll also tell you that when people go into retirement, the first 7 to 10 years, they'll do the stuff, right? They'll go on vacations, they'll spend money, things that they didn't have time to do while they were working. But it doesn't mean that they're going to do them every single year for the rest of their life. There's a lot of financial calculators that really just terrify people. Oh my gosh, I'm going to need $350,000 a year to live on in 15 years. How is that going to be possible? My own parents have been retired longer than my father actually worked at this stage. And yes, they did lots of stuff when they went into retirement, but it starts to get to a place where they're not doing as many things. So while I think inflation is really important to build in to a retirement plan, you want to build your own inflation rate into it, not just a number. Look at what you're spending money on. Look at how it's going to change over time. For example, you might go into retirement and have an $1,800 a month principal and interest on your mortgage, and you might be mapping out, I'm going to need that for the rest of my life. But in reality, you might have 3 years left on that mortgage, and at that point, you either don't need the income or you have additional resources to go and spend on something else. So we spend a lot of time with our clients building their own inflation, our retirement inflation budget, to see what they're actually spending money on. There isn't a one-size-fits-all plan in the financial industry, in our opinion, at South Shore. It's very unique to the individuals, so be really aware and pay attention to what you're actually spending money on. Doesn't mean you put yourself on a budget. It just look at what your retirement expenses are going to be and how they may evolve over time. Folks, the reason I started this podcast was really to try and educate people on things that they should be aware of, maybe should be addressing, and should be continuously monitoring throughout their working and retired lives. If anything resonated with you, I would encourage you to click on the links in the comments, set up a 15-minute introductory call, come down here into the office for a no cost, no obligation, second opinion. And don't forget to download that white paper that I mentioned with those 2 scenarios of 2007, 2009 retirees. Just make that first move, because if you can worry less and live more and not have to be concerned about the things that you want to do because you prepared ahead of time for them, you'll have a much more enjoyable retirement. Please subscribe to the podcast. We'll continue to give concepts and ideas like we do in all of our other channels of outreach to the community. Share it with other people if you think it might be important or might be relevant to them. But ultimately, it's your retirement, it's your nest egg, it's your journey through retirement. And many people think that retirement is, I got there, but retirement is, you started there. You're starting at retirement at like the summit of the mountain, and it's about getting down to base camp while you're having a blast in retirement, doing all the things that you want to do without having to worry about running out of money. Thank you so much for joining me. Look forward to speaking to you again in a future podcast, and look forward to seeing you over here in the office in Hingham. Thanks. Take care.